I want to be a champion of this movie. Because I remember you telling me about this. I'm like, okay, I'll give it. And I would not have watched it if it weren't for this podcast. There's a lot of barriers.
You changed lives here.
You changed lives. I feel like a new human being right now. So I have to thank you for it. But I was just like,
thanks for all the opening clips for this episode. Welcome to Don't Encourage Us, the podcast where we talk about the big ideas behind fiction projects of all different kinds. Books, movies, TV shows, video games, nothing's off limits. I'm your host, Joe Piscopo, and I'm here with my co-host, Treat Williams. Hi, Treat.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you again.
Good to see you. And today we have a special guest, Matt Baughman, theater star and local celebrity. Hi, Matt.
Good evening. You can call me General Sweetpants.
That's a good nom de plume. So today we're going to talk a little bit about One Cut of the Dead, the 2017 independent micro-budget film. It's a Japanese film in Japanese, so that means subtitles. Written and directed by Shinichiro Ueda. Anybody want to take a swing at that? No
way.
All right, I'll just wait for the angry letters. So normally we start with a little warm up. We talk about some things that we're interested in. But I think today we're kind of short on time. So why don't we get right into it? Before you guys tell me what you think of it, how about I give you a brief spoiler-free summary and my swing at what the premise of it is. Does that sound doable? Does anybody else want to?
I want to see what your spoiler-free summary is going to be.
Okay. Now, normally I let my co-host swing at this one, but in the interest of time.
Yeah, no shade thrown there.
I don't know. Were you ready? Are you dying to do it, or do you want me to take it?
I'm actually not dying to do this one.
Okay.
Did you actually make it through the movie this time?
I made it through the movie, the entire movie in one sitting.
Good job.
We can talk about that later.
Third attempt.
Actually, I think it's the fourth attempt, but Amazon Prime Video is loving my $2.99 purchases.
Now, is that a spoiler review for you?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's your number one suggestion every time you log in. Would you like to watch One Cut of the Dead again, the first 35 minutes?
I'll just wait till we do the podcast episode, and then I'll watch it all the way through. Yeah. But I have some new thoughts on this one. But
excellent. I'm excited. All right. So for those of you who haven't seen it, this is the summary. Here we go. Low budget horror film about the cast and crew of a zombie movie trying to survive an attack by real zombies and the unhinged director who's so obsessed with realism that he summoned them. All right. That's a pretty good summary, right?
Yeah.
Good job.
That is the spoiler-free summary. If you have not seen this movie, check out. Delete the podcast, forget you ever met us.
Well, you don't have to delete it. Just pause it and then come back, because it's going to be a good discussion. I can feel it.
Delete Microsoft Office.
Uninstall Windows.
Delete voice meter.
Okay, so that's the spoiler-free summary, and this is a great movie. I love this movie. It has a special place in my heart. So I highly recommend you just hit pause or delete and go check out this film. It's available. It's kind of hard to find, actually. I think it's on Shudder for free or part of that subscription, but it's also available to rent in multiple places.
Also, don't read anything about it and don't watch the trailer.
Yes, absolutely.
And stick it out for the first 37 minutes.
Exactly. You got to get past it's like 37:40 before it turns. Okay, so here's the actual brief summary. It's not a horror movie at all. It's a comedy about a bunch of dysfunctional people who come together to make a zombie movie on a live broadcast all in one take. Anybody want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would say if anyone has ever seen a British farce called Noises Off, which was a play and a movie, this is pretty much just like I wouldn't even call it a horror movie. Like once you get past the 37 minutes, it's not a horror movie at all. It's interesting the fact that when you look at the description, it has horror up front, but it's basically, I would say there's 3 acts. There's the horror movie, quote unquote horror movie. There's the making of the horror movie. And then there's there's the behind the scenes of coming up with it. Then the third act is the making of it, where you see the behind the scenes. And you have to watch the first 37 minutes because all the Easter eggs will make sense in the third act.
That's right. So it's 3 acts, roughly 30 plus minutes each.
Yep.
Act 1 is what appears to be a really cheesy, horrible, really almost unwatchable, low budget zombie movie that just seems to go off the rails on its own. Then the second act takes place a month before that, and it's the build up from the assembly of the crew to make the film and their preparation. And then the last 30 minutes is game day, where you actually get to see the original 37 minutes, but now from a further back perspective where you can see all the hilarity behind the scenes as they're trying to make this movie work. So it's a really clever idea, and I really enjoy it. I love it.
And it's also a live broadcast, so they can't stop. And it's a one-shot, 37-minute live broadcast.
Yeah, I think
so they have to keep on going. There's like improving. I mean, and I have to be honest with you, the first 37 minutes, I was like watching this and my notes were just railing on this, like how bad it was. And I was like, how are you making us watch this? But then I actually literally stopped taking notes halfway through because I was so into it, like the filmmaking of it. So spoiler review for me, I loved it. It's like, I would probably put it up as one of my favorite movies, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there we go.
I changed my tune on this one. I thought I was watching it, same as you, Matt. And I was like, I can't keep watching this. This is the most horrendous thing I've ever seen. But then as I got further into the movie and having done short films in the past and being interested in film in general, seeing that behind the scenes perspective was just absolutely hilarious. Like so much of the stuff that was happening in the movie was just like, it was shocking to see what was actually going on behind the scenes. And it was extremely clever. I think this might be the hardest movie to market.
I was going to say the
sure.
same thing. Because if you just watch the trailer thinking it's a horror movie, why would anyone turn like I would not. I watched the trailer after watching the movie, and there's no way I would have, because they don't really spoil it. They kind of do a little bit at the end of it. But there's no way I would click say yes. Why did you pick this movie to begin with?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is probably a good example of the roundabout way that people find this film, especially outside of Japan. I was idly Googling, and I Googled like the best zombie movies of all time. And it was like a top 10 or 12 list. And I went through and like, I've seen a lot of them before, but this one I hadn't seen. And the reviewer wrote very specifically, like, this movie is amazing. It has 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I am not going to tell you why. If you're at all interested, go watch this movie. So I was like, this person's probably a little hyperbolic and like, just loves everything and they love zombies. And this is some little pet favorite of theirs. So I put it on a list, and then I went over to a friend's place like a month later. I just put it in my notes as like, maybe check it out. But I didn't watch a trailer. And at my friend's, he was like, what should we watch? And there was nothing we could think of. And it occurred to me like, oh, this movie is super high rated. And he was like, well, let's just put it on and see how it is. And for the first 37 minutes, I was like legit out loud, like, how in the world could this possibly have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes? It shouldn't even have 2% on Rotten Tomatoes. And that disparity alone kept me watching. And then after the initial phase, the like 37-minute or 38-minute like zombie flick, then it switched gears. And I was like, is this a different movie? What is it? Did that movie end and now we're on to a different film? Like, this is so confusing. It just blew my mind, and it was so much fun. So I think that's probably the only reasonable way to find it, unless you have friends who will force you to watch it for a podcast. You're welcome.
I thought you had the worst taste in movies. I was just thinking, this is just the worst recommendation of a movie I've ever gotten. I don't know what's going on. But again, I kept thinking 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. Why? And then prepping for this podcast, I read that it was nominated for a Japanese Oscar. I was like, wow, that was pretty impressive on that insanely low budget. What was it? What was the budget on this?
20, it was like 25 to 27. Yeah, that's what I said.
And I think it made millions, right?
Yeah, it made like 25 million, 30 million.
Just 30 million, almost
unbelievable.
30. Yeah.
That's like a paranormal activity type of, or like Blair Witch.
Absolutely.
Type of success.
And it's a foreign language film. So it doesn't get the play that Blair Witch would. I think it's better than Blair Witch.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, so much better. So Steve, when you were watching it before the podcast, when you kept on turning it off, like when were the stopping points for you?
It was basically the same part. It was when they ran into the van for the first time.
Okay.
I was like, I can't handle this. I don't know. Maybe it was like 10 or 15, what was it? Maybe 20 minutes into the movie.
You're getting closer, I think.
You're so close.
I know. You kept telling me that. But what kept happening on Amazon Prime, you know how it gives you like 48 hours to watch the movie?
Yeah.
There was a time that I went back in and I'm like, maybe I'll keep watching it. And then it would say like, you have 40 minutes left to watch the movie. And I'm like, I can't. Just not watch it. And then we'd go through the whole thing and I'm like, I hope he's not going to suggest this movie again because I really can't rent it again. And then he'd mention it again and I'd be sitting around like, all right, let's give this a shot again. Let's fire up Amazon Prime. I feel like I'm another $3 or whatever. And then I'd get to around 20 minutes or so, a little past the van scene. And I'm like, no, I can't. I'll watch the rest later. Then I'd forget about it. Then I'd come back. And then it's like, you have 25 minutes left on your rental. And then I'm like, here we go.
Yeah, well, I felt some of your pain. Like I decided to rewatch it in preparation for this. And even knowing that the last half hour is all about like making jokes about what you're watching in the first half hour, I was like, it's painful. This beginning is so bad that even knowing all that and how funny it is, I'm so tempted to skip ahead because it's so painful to watch those first 37 minutes. It's
like a horrendous student film.
It is.
That's exactly what it is.
Give a bunch of kids a camera and they're like, okay, film something.
Yeah.
Did you like at any point realize there's going to be a twist coming during that 37 minutes? Or did you actually literally think it was going to be this?
I thought it was literally going to be this. Yeah.
I kind of, it was only because of the runtime. Because everyone was getting killed off so early. And I'm like, there's no way. It's like 30 minutes and pretty much the entire cast is getting killed off. I said, something is going on here. But so I knew there was going to be a twist, but I did not know it was going to be they're making this film. I thought it was going to be kind of like the 1 month earlier was going to be kind of like what I thought it was going to be kind of like the prequel of getting these actors together, but it was still a zombie movie. Like the zombie movies it was still going to be a zombie movie. I didn't realize it was going to be, they were going to make a zombie movie and that's how they were going to do it. So and then like when the lead girl chopped off her boyfriend's head, that was so fake. And that was kind of like, all right, there's something going on here. I think this might be something because it was so unrealistic. I say it cannot be this bad. But like the first part you have to watch because all my notes, I was like, why is the makeup lady doing karate or whatever it's called?
Self-defense.
Self-defense. Yeah. And I thought that was just like, oh, they're foreshadowing that she's going to be able to kick the zombies. And then I also wrote, why are the zombies such bad actors? They're doing really weird movements. And there's this one shot where like the sound guy, which I thought he had the most hilarious running bit with had to drink soft water. And if he had hard water, he would have diarrhea. But he was just sitting in the background when a zombie was attacking. He was just sitting there. Yeah. And I'm like, if a zombie was coming in, why isn't he running out? I don't know. It was just genius how they called it all back.
So basically, you thought they did a ton of stuff wrong, but those couple things they did right, like,
yeah,
that's what clued you in. Whereas I just assumed they were that stupid and that bad, and this was just that low quality of a film.
I thought it was just that low quality of a film.
Your instincts kicked in. Go ahead.
The blacked out DP. That was just the funniest thing. I couldn't stop laughing when that part came up where you're like, he's just passed out and they're like putting makeup all over him and just sending him out. That was amazing. It was genius. And how he was actually banging on the door because the guy was like, holding him up.
And like, I thought the acting was extremely good because, you know, I've had to act in shows where I play a bad actor. It's very difficult to do. And like, especially the director who had to step in, he was so over the top in the movie. He was so over the top as like a really nasty director, but he was so like timid in real life. It was just really good contrast. Same with the lead guy. The lead guy was this big artistic guy, but in the movie he kind of played this kind of like shy, kind of bad actor teenager. I don't know. It was just all around really good. It's like when all three of us agree it's not the most entertaining part of a podcast, but I have no criticism of this movie.
Well, actually, I'm glad you're on because I wanted to talk about that today and get your insights. So for those who haven't watched it, again, like you're ruining a wonderful experience by listening to this instead of watching it first. But a lot of the actors in this film get to play dual roles, right? They get to play initially a character as part of the zombie movie they're making. And that's all that we see them as for the first 37 minutes. And then those same actors get to play a second role, which is a more three-dimensional character and very interesting. And Matt's referring to the director character. So in the first half hour, he's playing, by the way, that's Takayuki Hamatsu. And it doesn't look like any of these actors have done too much, although there are some sequels we'll talk about later. But anyway, Takayuki Hamatsu is playing initially this abusive, obsessed hack director. And then we find out that his actual character, his real personality is that he's humble, he's timid, and he's really pragmatic. And he's trying to make everyone happy in the build up to shooting this. And he wants the respect of his wife and daughter. So then, his arc over the film is to become more passionate about his work and more bold, and more in charge. And that brings him closer to his daughter, right? Does that sound right to you guys?
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So similarly, in the original or the first 37 minutes, there's a makeup lady who is seemingly possessed at one point, and she becomes a threat and then ends up chasing the main character and is one of the final threats that the female lead in this fake movie has to defeat. But then for the rest of the film, we find out she's actually the director's wife. She's a woman who used to be an actress, and now she has a lot of different interests and passions, but she has to quit because she goes overboard and she chronically overcommits to her interests. And that's what happened in the first 37 minutes is she got super into playing that role and kind of lost control, right? So all the actors have these dual sides to their character. So Matt, you said it's hard to play that. And specifically you added they're playing bad actors. So that's even harder. But is there anything else about playing a dual role or how they did it in this film that stood out to you?
The dual role part is always really fun to play. I was in the play that I mentioned earlier that I thought this was kind of like Noises Off. I was in that. Mm-hmm. I was in that show. And it's basically I play kind of like a conceited actor, and then I play this very nebbish guy on stage. So it's a really good challenge. That's actually kind of easier because you do kind of you start off, you just basically build two character sets. In this movie, I could see it. The third act was kind of different. I could see can be very difficult because they have to go back and forth. Mm-hmm. So basically the first act of the movie, they're playing their character. So it's almost they're in another movie. So they get to play that, like the director, he gets to play this overbearing director. The second act, he gets to play this timid person. But the third act is where the challenge comes in, where you kind of have to go back and forth. And I thought each of the actors did such a good job going back and forth between the character they were playing in the movie and the character and the person. It's very hard to even
zombie
explain.
Film. The character they played in the zombie
film, movie character. There we go. Yeah. The zombie film and movie character going back and forth. Each actor did such a good job, especially the director, because the director was really harried. He was running around back scenes, and he pops up and he just goes, action, and then goes away, and he's back to his nebbish character. I could see that being really, really fun. And also, I saw that they only took 8 days to film this whole movie, which is kind of insane because the first 30 minutes is literally a one shot. So they never cut. So they
actually, I think they did technically cut a couple times, but they filmed it as a one shot. Yeah.
Oh, the first 37 minutes they actually did.
I think I saw there were a few cuts.
Okay. I read somewhere. I thought they did it all in one shot.
You read that they did do it in one shot?
I did read it in one shot.
Let's figure this out. Somebody get to Googling that. Continue, Matt.
Well, I was just going to say, it was basically they did a one act play for 37 minutes. But to do all that in 8 days is remarkable. I think I heard they filmed that 37 part that 37-minute part in 2 days. And I think they ran it 4 times. At least this is what I read. I don't know.
That's kind of unbelievable. Yeah. To your point, Matt, and also the gore and the effects that they would have to do and keep that consistent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Tracking that would have been really difficult. I wonder how they shot it. Was it a linear shoot for certain parts of it, and then like it was more traditional, just like different scenes edited together, kind of clumped together according to location? I'd be curious to know like what their kind of game plan for it was, and if it, whatever it was extremely complicated to keep.
It was very complicated
together.
And to make it look cheap too, and to have all these Easter eggs within it. I think it comes back to the writing, because I think you had it writing and was it storyboarding, and like going in with that big plan to have all those spots that had to be hit.
It's based on a play.
Well, so let's talk about, first of all, you guys are right. What they took 6 tries to get it all in one take.
Yep.
So it is one continuous shot, but it took 6 attempts. And they're calling those takes. So basically, what's confusing if you Google it is they got 1 take and 6 takes.
Yes.
Is what it says everywhere.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's not actually based on a play. There's a controversy, which I did some research on. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So according to Variety, there's a playwright, and I'm going to again take a stab at the name, Ryoichi Wada, who claimed after it came out that One Cut was based on his play Ghost in the Box. And apparently the creator of One Cut of the Dead had seen that. And I think he knew the playwright. I think that's why the guy assumed it was, sort of he was clearly inspired by. And then according to Yahoo, this guy, Patrick Cunningham, who's a Japan-based American producer, resolved the conflict by purchasing the rights and negotiating like an agreement between the two of them. So which is why if you go to IMDb and other websites like that, it will actually credit 2 writers. It'll credit the director who wrote it and also this playwright as sort of like an adaptation.
Yeah, and I noticed in the credits they put inspired by Ghost in the Box. So I'm wondering, was that added in later? Because if there's this controversy, the playwright must have saw this movie in Japan before, and then maybe they added it.
It was released first, I believe, and then the controversy kicked in.
Right. So then I guess they added it in for when it was put on Amazon. Yeah,
edited everything. And
because I Googled, I wanted to see what this play was about. I was like, I didn't know it was based on a play, hoping maybe I could do it someday.
Can you imagine this as a play? Right? Like I was looking at the movie and I was like, how is this actually based on a play? If it was inspired by, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Like how would you actually do this?
Well, like I said, like it is
possible?
structured. It's structured like a play, definitely. I could definitely see it as a play. It'd be a lot different. Like I think, like I said, the first act there'd be a 3-act play. It'd be the first act would be the horror movie, the second act behind the scenes, or the coming of it. So yeah, I could definitely see the structure of it.
Sorry, how would you deal with the point of view? Like the Easter eggs and how you start seeing behind the scenes really has so much to do with where the camera's positioned,
right?
And what they're allowing you to see.
Well, no, you would just you do the first round. Okay, I'm not the expert. Matt, do you want to explain?
No, I was going to say you can do it. Yeah, I could see this. It wouldn't. I don't think it'd be as effective. But it's just basically one shot. The audience is the camera, basically. And the first act is easy. First act, you just do it like the horror play. And then the second act, you kind of introduce the characters and everything like that. The third act would be where the challenge would be, where you're saying where with the camera point of view, you have these characters in the play, like the stage manager or whatever, come out and do all the effects while like other side of the stage, the action's going on. So it's kind of like I could see it like a split scene. Like third act would be a split scene where half the stage would be the quote unquote zombie movie, and the other half would be the crew people behind the scenes going over and like I said, I think it'd be cool to see it on stage, but I don't think it would be as nearly as effective. I think it definitely works better as a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Did you read much about Ghost in the Box?
I have not now.
I couldn't find anything like a good summary. And the impression I got is it's just sort of like the concept of a movie about a movie or a play about a play or something is what that he, and that's supernatural elements is what he claimed were the same. But I am now curious. I mean, it was apparently kind of like a student theater type situation where I think it played very briefly to a small number of people. but because the director did see it, that was the grounds for the claim. So it certainly isn't something that I think people are showing anymore, Ghost in the Box.
Right.
Is there any similarity here between, wasn't there a controversy around who owns the rights to Top Gun?
I think so. I do recall something along those lines.
Yeah, where someone owned the rights to, and I could be wrong here. I think we discussed it maybe in a previous episode, the Maverick episode.
I think it was Xenu had some of the rights, right? Isn't that correct?
I think so, yeah.
Lord
and then he sold them off.
Yeah, they're going to shut us down one day.
Yeah,
that's
done.
One too many Scientology jokes.
We're done. When these transcripts get out there, forget it.
Yeah, these transcripts.
It's a good thing
Xeno.ai.
Istanbul.
Xenu.ai is going to come after it. Scanning the internet for any...
Chat Xenu.
Oh, these laughs will turn to tears soon.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Tom Cruise is going to divorce me.
Again.
Tom Cruise would have been good in this movie. What part would Tom Cruise have played?
Oh, that's a good question. How about Diarrhea Guy?
The drunk DP?
Could you, if this was going to be remade as a U.S. film, who would you want to cast and direct it?
Ooh, okay, a little fantasy casting.
Take away marketing all aside, because I feel like it would be impossible to have superstars be in this movie and not give it away in the trailer.
Well, no, there might be an angle there. Right?
Yeah.
So one of the worst movies I've ever seen in the theater is a little gym called Battlefield Earth.
Sure. Yeah. Back to Scientology.
Yeah, exactly. As usual, right? I think if you created this aura around the film, it is one of these celebrity pet projects, you have to give it a different name so no one would know. But basically, it's being created because of Seth Rogen and his cronies wanted to make this low budget film as a favor to a cancer child, or it's Scientology's attempt, or some foreign country is trying to break into big filmmaking. Okay. So you give it this auspice of, or this illusionary blanket of, there's a plausible reason why good people could make something terrible. If you slip that in, then I really think you could fool the audience for 37 minutes into thinking that even good actors, maybe it's not their fault, but it was done cheaply, it was done for a charity, it was done, whatever the excuse is, it's bad. The writing is bad, the actors are off, the sound, the lighting is messed up, right?
Okay.
And the story is stupid, but they did it for some reason. And then you kick into act 2 and everybody gets a good laugh.
I think that's a genius idea. I don't know if you remember this, but Will Ferrell and I think it was Kristen Wiig did a Lifetime movie. Mm-hmm. And that was basically the whole plot, where the whole gimmick was they were doing a Lifetime movie. So people tuned in to watch them do this Lifetime movie. But the issue with that is they played it seriously. So I watched it for 2 hours, and it was one of the most boring movies I ever saw.
So you were waiting for them to break.
I was waiting for the twist to happen, where something's going to happen, but it never happened. They almost tricked the audience, punked the audience to watch this Lifetime movie, and they played it seriously and straight the entire time. But I think you have something going there with that kind of idea.
Yeah. What about that crew? I think that's really funny.
That crew.
The waiting for
Two Live.
You know what I'm talking about? That comedy. Yeah, Two Live crew. They'd be perfect for
That's
this.
the only crew.
Where are those guys?
Actually, that's an idea. You could take a band. I'm sorry, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was saying whoever did Waiting for Guffman, Christopher Guest and Parker Posey, I think it is, Jennifer Coolidge. Yep. That whole comedy troupe.
Yes.
That's who I would see.
That's perfect because they're famous, but not famous enough. I think you could totally get away with that trope of doing that.
And this is their humor. Right. And they're all about mockumentaries, right?
Exactly.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, well, you could also take actors who are famous, but not for acting. So you could be like, this is a band's attempt at making a movie, kind of like the Beatles, but there's actually a twist in that they realize the first 37 minutes is unwatchable and they're not as bad at actors as they seem. Because again, there's a conceit there that would explain why someone would release a movie this bad because of their egos, right?
Right.
It's kind of like when Rob Zombie does his movies.
Right.
Yes,
Similar.
except they're a little better received.
True. What about that Foo Fighters movie that came out?
Oh, yeah.
Something like
saw
that.
Yeah.
I imagine it's terrible, but who knows?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I never saw it.
It's like a horror, like a comedy horror.
It's a comedy horror. I mean, there might be a twist there too. I only watched the trailer and looked.
Yeah.
So
or Two Live Crews movie.
You heard it here first, folks.
If you're listening to Live Crew.
It would be like Two Relive Crew. Would that be the zombie?
Oh, boy.
Two Reanimated Crew.
It's got to be a bad title. Okay, so I wanted to ask you guys this too. The first part of the film, the first act, is intentionally a really lousy, low budget movie. And it's supposed to be a horror, but it's horrible, right? The second two acts are done with cliche, upbeat kind of a tone. It's almost like an 80s comedy.
Mhm.
You know, there's like mugging for the camera, you know, or he's like, so you want me to do, or you want to film a zombie movie in one shot live. And he looks right at the camera and mugs for the camera.
Yeah.
There's like bass and maracas and bongos. It's almost like heist music in the background when they're filming. They add in like poop jokes and 80 guitar riffs. So it is quite cheesy. Now, did that bother you, or did you like that as a way to play off of the tone of the first act?
That's a good question. I honestly didn't really notice it all that much. I kind of noticed it a little bit with the director of DP. He was a little bit of an overactor, I would say, like in the Act 2 and 3 with his drunkenness. I'm kind of also wondering if it's cultural, like how movies are made culturally, because I don't watch a ton of movies from Japan, but the ones that I have seen, they kind of, I don't want to say overact. That's not the right phrase, but kind of like they embellish almost a little bit more than American actors do.
Mm-hmm.
Americans try to usually kind of play natural, where
Like that 1940s American style of acting.
Exactly, yeah. So I think they do a little bit more. So that kind of like it stuck out a little bit to me. So I don't even know if that was part of the try to make it a balance out of the zaniness. So I don't know if that was part of that or if it was more cultural how they make their movies. It didn't bother me. I enjoyed it.
Before I get my co-host's opinion on that, the drunk character I interpreted as that kind of classic drunk character that you see a lot in Asian films.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that so much, like the drunk fighting or just the like stumbles into town. It seemed like he was playing that exactly on par with the comedic, exaggeration kind of worked in.
I agree.
I think maybe that's what that was. But the kind of upbeat, almost sitcom quality to the second two acts, did that bother you?
No, it didn't really bother me at all.
No, I think it was needed.
Okay. Because the first time I saw it, I didn't really notice it that much. It was important to reset the tone of the film. The second time I was like, man, that is laying on thick. I think once I expected it, all I could hear were like bongos in the background, like guitar riffs. And it was like, come on, guys. But I thought maybe it was intentional, but it did crank up the cheese factor for sure. Yeah.
I could see that. And I think if I watched it the second time, I don't think I would enjoy it as much the second time around, because I think part of the enjoyment was the twist, the surprise of it. Yeah.
I really enjoyed the music in the beginning, actually, even though it's like super, super cheesy.
Really?
Like the score.
Uh-huh.
There were points where I was like, oh, this is a pretty good score like for a horror movie.
Yeah.
For the first 37 minutes, was there anything you liked about it? Was there anything you're like, okay, this is pretty, besides the score, I guess you could say.
I kind of like the acting, the director's wife's acting.
Okay.
That was the only thing that I was really like, oh, she's not
pretty
so
good.
bad. Yeah, she's pretty good.
I agree. She was like the most natural out of them. And I think that makes sense because she is a method actress in real life. So it makes sense that she was the best one in the movie.
Yeah, she was playing it as a better actor.
Right.
Maybe unintentionally, but yeah, because her character was sort of overcome.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. So she wasn't playing a bad actor as much.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the main girl was really pretty, so that was.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to sound like a creep because I didn't look up her age.
That's the creep podcast.
That's why we brought you on here.
That's right. I'll be the
For our next question.
I thought the main actress in the zombie film was really just stunning. So I was like, she's very cute.
Hold on, I have a special guest, Chris Hansen, who wants to join.
Oh, come on, she's got to be. No. I'm trying to think of anything else. Really, it wasn't the echo in where they were. I don't know if it was like a gymnasium or something, whatever they were. That really bugged me because the sound quality was so bad.
We're all about sound quality here.
Yeah,
exactly.
The highest quality, Michelin star.
So it just, and whenever they screamed, it was just so loud and like.
It's unpleasant. It is almost unwatchable. It's really hard to get through, but that just makes it so much better when you hit the twist.
Yeah. And there was times where like there was blood splatter on the camera. And
and they wiped off the camera.
And I was like, did they set this up to be a documentary? I don't remember that.
I was yelling at this to my friend, can you believe this? This is unbelievable. He just wiped off the camera.
Yeah.
My friend like came running back in from the kitchen. Hilarious. And then the camera guy fell down. I was like, I think he just fell down. My friend's like, what happened? What happened to the shot? I was like, I think he fell down. The camera guy just fell down. That's what I enjoyed the most is how unbelievably bad it was and shouting that at my friend.
Now, did your friend like catch it at all?
Oh, he loved it. Absolutely. Yeah, I actually bought the shirt. I don't have it on right now. I bought the one cut of the dead shirt. I ordered it online. I love it.
That's funny. I love that small scene where they're chasing them through like kind of the high grass, and that girl that really wanted to have that zoom.
Oh yeah.
And she gets to do it. And then she turns around and keeps running. It was so funny. Like those little touches really made such a huge difference.
You know, rewatching the disaster that is the first 37 minutes at the end again is such a fun experience because everything pays off. Like all these awkward moments and like one of my favorite bits is in just picking up from the middle in the month preparation. One of the actors in the movie is supposed to be, I guess he's kind of a celebrity and he's good looking and he's got a real ego and he kind of bosses the director around all week. But then in the second version or in the first version, we get to see the director now playing the director in the zombie movie slap him and yell, "You've been talking back since rehearsal." Which wasn't even in their script. He ad-libbed that because he was so mad.
And that simple scene in the beginning was 42 takes. Did you catch that?
Yes.
42 takes. It was like a Stanley Kubrick moment.
And the lead actress, I guess she's got representation that's really strict about what's allowed to, like what can be done to her on screen and what can't. And she specifically says like, look, I'm okay with it, but my representation says that you can't put fake vomit on me.
Right.
And then the actor actually vomits on her, the drunk actor. It's like small things. It's so funny.
I wonder how someone who doesn't know anything about behind the scenes of movie making at all, watching this, what their take on it would be. You know,
I don't know. That's a good question because the audience reviews are not 100%.
Okay.
So I looked at Google, and if you look at the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like 82%, or I think Google was like 87%. So, you know, obviously people liked it, but I don't know if like your average moviegoer, or that's not even a real thing. Somebody who likes a Transformers movie would, to be more specific, would watch this movie if they were forced to sit through it. You know, what was that? Agent Orange? What's that movie? Where they strap him into the chair and make him watch.
Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange. Thank you. Same thing. Clockwork Orange, like if you strapped a Transformers audience in, you know, and forced them to watch this movie, if at the end of it, they would be like, I get it, but it's okay. Or if they would say, I don't really get it, or they would love it.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they would get a lot out of it in the sense that, you know, I didn't realize movies were really made like this, or
maybe. Or maybe they would just get some of the jokes and think it was a little bit up its own rear end. I don't know.
I think they would appreciate it, but not as much as people who are into film appreciate it. I think it's like that Waiting for Guffman crew. I don't know if you guys are into theater and stuff like that, but watching them put on a community theater show, I think I have friends who aren't in the theater and they hate that movie, but I love it because it's like, this is very true. This is real life. I think you make a good point. There might be, quote unquote, I'm a Transformers audience. I've seen every single Transformers in the theater.
I'm a big Transformers fan too, Matt. So
put me in that
side
too.
This is the last episode of this podcast.
Actually, Steve and I don't know if you remember this, Steve. We went to go see the original Transformers together.
I think so. Yeah,
We got like a press pass to see it. We're like one of the first people to see it.
With Mads, I think.
What's that?
Mads.
Bridges of Madison County. Yeah, I think yeah. So we
double feature.
There's a lot of inside jokes here. But we went to, it was a press pass, and I remember the whole next, because we got to see it like a week before everyone else. We're like, we got to see Transformers press pass, no big deal.
You should have been warning everyone.
Did you not like that?
He hates Transformers. He absolutely hates it.
You don't like the first one?
I mean, the first one is the least bad of them all.
I don't know.
It has the most that meets the eye.
I was steamed up after the first one. I think I went to see back. I think I saw that 4 times in the theater.
I wasn't that.
So the sequel is your fault.
Yeah, the sequels are my fault. Mark Wahlberg is my fault. And the new one's coming out soon. I'm going to go see that one too.
Yeah. No surprise there. So you guys reference spin-offs and sequels. There are actually spin-off and sequels. I'll just read them out. There's One Cut of the Dead. The title is One Cut of the Dead spin-off : in Hollywood. It was made for TV, and I believe it follows the daughter making her own movie in Hollywood with similar kind of a structure, but I don't know if it has a supernatural element to it. So that was in 2019. In 2021, during the pandemic, the creator of this wrote and directed via Zoom One Cut of the Dead Mission : Remote. And it's available on YouTube for free. And I watched it. And I'll talk about that. But there's also a French language remake called Final Cut, which opened the Cannes Film Festival in 2022.
Wow, I didn't know all this.
I have no idea. Yeah. You're a wealth of knowledge.
That's
all the time I don't spend watching Transformers movies.
At least you're keeping yourself busy.
Protecting my brain cells.
Now, like you said, you watched one of them. Are all of them available now?
No, I couldn't find One Cut of the Dead spin-off : in Hollywood. I looked for it for a while. It looks like it was made for TV in Japan.
Okay.
Maybe somebody can email in and tell me where to find it, because I would like to watch that. One Cut of the Dead Mission Remote is available on YouTube. That's the one I watched. The premise is the 2 filmmakers who approach the director at the beginning of Act 2, the woman and the guy. They say, hey, we want you to make those like unsolved mysteries shows?
Yeah.
So it's like a crime reenactment show.
Yeah.
Okay. I said, we want you to make a crime reenactment episode. We want you to do it during the pandemic. And that's the bit. And he's like, you want me to make a crime reenactment drama during the pandemic where everyone films separately? And they're like, yes, exactly. So everybody logs in via Zoom. It's all the same actors, right? And they log in and they do stories of this criminal who's committed multiple crimes. And so each little vignette is done using the combination of a victim who's filmed separately and the attacker who's on a different Zoom window. So it's like a split window kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And the victims have to pretend like they're being attacked by someone else. And it has to line up with the guy doing the attacking. And they do different version after different version with different pairings. And in between, there are shots where the director's like, okay, that one was pretty good, but like try to get like more distinguished sunglasses or like more recognizable sunglasses. So then the guy who's the killer comes in next time with like really ridiculous sunglasses. And he's like, okay, that was fine, but next time make them a little bit less. Right. And then the actors have their own demands. the guy who wants to be a serious actor. He's good looking and kind of famous.
Yeah.
In this bit, he decides to embellish his character and give it all this backstory. So when he's the victim, he has like this big bouquet of flowers. And afterwards, he's explaining that the character was on his way to go meet someone. It's like this whole long thing. It's really funny. So the director is very harried and he's trying to make it work. And the DP's in it as a victim, but he's like drunk. I was laughing out loud when I was watching it. It was quite good.
Is it a full length?
No, it's probably 15 minutes or something.
Oh, I'm going to watch it then.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's very funny.
And is the French one the same movie, just in French?
I don't know. I also tried to find that and I was going to watch it. I did find a trailer. It looks like they took some liberties with the story, but it wasn't even in English. So I was trying to like sort out what was going on and I couldn't quite get a read on it. Mm-hmm. So those are out there as part of the mythology. And if you're even more dedicated than I am, you can dive in and find those somewhere. If you do, email me links because I'd actually love to.
Yeah, I'd like to watch it too.
Do you think there'll be an American remake?
That's in the works. So they bought the rights, but I think the pandemic kind of screwed that up. So they were talking about doing that. I
bet you if it was successful overseas, they're gonna definitely do it here.
Yeah, I don't.
Especially budget to take.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it had so much heat. I think he was really smart to do this like remote thing and upload it to YouTube because I think it kind of kept some of the energy alive.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It'd be like if Blair Witch came out or it was like a known like underground independent film. And then there was some sort of 3-year interruption. I don't know that it really would have hit theaters or done well when it did.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. So what would you guys do with this property? Would you do an American remake? Would you do a sequel? What would you do?
I don't think a sequel would work as well. I mean, I guess they did a sequel with with the Zoom one.
But actually, the spinoff is a sequel too. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, the spinoff. So, well, okay. Let me ask you this: for the Zoom movie, did they do an actual movie beforehand? Like the first 5 minutes was it an actual movie?
He changed the structure, so it basically starts at Act 2.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think I don't know. With the same cast, I wouldn't mind them like just doing another movie, but starting, I guess, with Act 2. Like you couldn't do. See, that's hard because I feel like you need that first 30 minutes, but you couldn't do it. You couldn't have the switch, so it'd have to be something known.
So I think you're on the right track.
You know what I'm saying?
I think so. Yeah.
I think you can do it. You could still do it, and I think people could enjoy it knowing that the first 30 minutes isn't real. Like they're filming something, but you have to pay attention. It's kind of similar to like the Knives Out movies, kind of, where it's like the first 30 minutes or so is just the mystery, and then you have to like get through that, and then it's the solving. Like the second Knives Out, like the Glass Onion, you knew Daniel Craig is going to come in and solve the mystery or whatever, so you just have to go for the first 30 minutes of figuring it out. I don't know. I'm having a hard time forming words.
Sort of building on that. Well, that's not why we brought you in, so don't worry. Building on that, I think if we take your idea of doing a mystery film, and you shoot a 37-minute mystery, but you do it poorly, not quite as poorly, and then you do a similar structure where you back up. I think Knives Out or Glass Onion does that. It backs up and gives you backstory. Yeah. Right. So you're basically doing the same thing. It's like a parody of Glass Onion at this point, where you start off with like a little bit of an Agatha Christie-esque kind of movie, but it's not very good. Yes. Then you back up and you talk about how they're going to be making an Agatha Christie type movie, and then it starts to dawn on people, and then you redo the first 37 minutes, but you show why it was so bad. Gotcha. That can absolutely work. You could do that with a Western. You do that kind of thing. And instead of calling it one cut of something that would give it away to fans, I think the original translation of the name of this movie is Don't Stop the Cameras, or Don't Stop Filming, I think is what it is. Okay. So you could do some variation on that to make it clear that it's like, a sequel or in the vein of, or whatever. And, then do a remake that way. So it's not horror. It's a different genre, and you can play with a similar structure. I think that would work.
Yeah, I think so too.
Any other thoughts? Anybody else? What you do with this IP?
Yeah, I was wondering if there was something that could be done and make it a reality show of some type.
Ooh.
With different film crews. I know we've kind of explored this before.
No, keep going.
Different contexts, right?
How would that work?
Maybe it's not the best filmmakers, but the worst filmmakers.
Right. So you intentionally assemble a bad team that think sincerely
that they're making.
They can do this. Okay. That they're making a movie. Right.
Yeah. I mean,
and you throw obstacles at them so that it falls apart, but you tell them it has to be one cut.
Right. Yeah. And
so
see what they do, because that would be pretty hilarious. And then you'd have the segments where they're interviewing the different crew members, what they were
preparation. So you go back ahead.
Yeah. You could do the preparation part, but I was also thinking like in the typical reality show format where they're interviewing people in between these different takes. So what were you at that time?
So they're talking about how terrible the experience is and how mad they are at each other.
Right. And then it would be really funny to have to see the conflicts between those different film crews, or you could have multiple film crews competing against each other, but the infighting within the film crew as to what they should do or how things should be set up, etc. And then you're throwing obstacles in there. Yeah. Maybe some of the other film crews are throwing the obstacles in.
Oh, I like it. No, that works. So you have Act 1, which is if we're doing if it's a film length documentary, a / reality documentary, you could do it that way. It's 30 something minutes. Or if it's a TV show, you have 3 episodes or 4 episodes where you've assembled this crew. They're shooting a short horror film, let's say. And you're intentionally all these things are going wrong, and you're interviewing them, and they're getting upset, and they're desperate, and they're trying to make this work, and it's falling apart. And then part 2 is you jump back in time and you show the reality TV show assembling these people and kind of setting them up to fail. Right. And then the last 3 episodes are the first 3 episodes, but the camera crew's being filmed. And you can see the production crew for the reality show, intentionally throwing obstacles in their way.
Right.
And then maybe a final episode where they're in on it and they get to talk about the experience and laugh at themselves and stuff like that. Maybe they get to watch that video with the audience.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, I think that would work. And it would be funny to have the casting portion of it, how they're assembling these crews. Cause in American Idol, they're trying to pick the greatest singer, that comes in front of them. But you find out pretty quickly that they're just grabbing the worst of the worst and then putting them together into kind of like a super group. And then having them competing with each other. I think that would be really funny.
I love it. Great. All right. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else you guys wanted to get into about One Cut of the Dead? No.
Nope. I feel like I want to be a champion of this movie. Because I remember you telling me about this. I'm like, okay, I'll give it. And I would not have watched it if it weren't for this podcast. There's a lot of barriers.
You changed lives here.
You changed lives. I feel like a new human being right now. So I have to thank you for it. But I was just
thanks for all the opening clips for this episode.
Yeah, I would like to, extending IP. I would like to learn more about the characters within the zombie movie. I think if there was one thing I wish they kind of Act 2, that part of learning about them, I felt like there wasn't enough time to learn about these people, except the director a little bit, director and his family. But I kind of like to know about the method actor.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
The pop star.
Yeah,
I kind of like that. I think I would like to learn more about that. I don't think this would work as a TV series because that basically, no, it could. It could work as a TV series. The first episode could be the horror movie, and then you extend out 4 or 5 episodes of what the get together of the crew and stuff like that. I think you go even further back from a month, how they got the method actor, how the pop star was put into place. It'd be kind of cool to watch this as an 8-part miniseries, and then the last 2 episodes is the actual making of the film. But I also thought it was kind of meta during the credits. You could see them making of the film.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot to mention that. Yeah. And there's actually the making of documentary on YouTube as well.
Oh, is there?
And they had the actors pretend to make a movie. They broke them into groups and gave them different roles as fake, director, sound guy, and so on. And they had them run through in the morning different experiences, and then the director gave them tips on how to seem more like a real crew.
Cool. Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
So yeah, even like behind the scenes of filmmaking, just seeing how they did everything where the actors themselves had to kind of like run off camera and duck around and things like that. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
It reminded me of the Fablemans when Steven
A little bit.
Spielberg was kind of filming his first like Western or his World War II movie.
Oh yeah.
Run around the camera and then the camera would spin and they're all like laying out on the floor.
Yeah.
Or the desert or whatever.
Right. Did you see the Fablemans?
I did not.
Or is that
I was trying
too
to stay
much?
quiet and keep my ignorance a secret.
Is it too much like Transformers for you?
Yeah, that's right. All right. So we now have up and running an email account. So you can email us at don'tencourage@gmail.com. That's DONTENCOUR and the rest of however you spell that at gmail.com. So anybody have any questions for the audience to answer?
What would you do with this IP audience?
Yeah, I'm always curious what people's ideas are because this is a complicated concept and there's a lot of really creative, fun things. So yeah, I'm curious what people thought of when we asked that question. I'm also curious if people what they thought of the first 37 minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm curious to see if like they sat down, like what was their experience watching that first 30 minutes or something.
I also want to know what kept them going.
Yeah, what kept them going?
That's a great question. Why did you keep watching?
Because I would have turned this movie off if I didn't have to watch it. Basically, like I would have been like Steve. Like I give you credit for actually getting through it like the first time. I don't know how would you have gotten through it if you didn't have friends with you?
Probably.
Like yeah, you would have. Wow.
Yeah, just because it was interesting to me that something could be that bad.
Wow.
And I would have kept checking how much longer it was because it seemed like it was ending,
Yeah.
And I might have started skipping around eventually, but I would have had to just because it's such a train wreck.
It is. Well, have you ever seen Room?
No, but I've obviously heard a lot about it. Yeah.
Because I'm curious, like that was just bad all the way through. I watched it after I saw the Disaster Artist, the movie on making of The Room. I can't imagine how that became a cult classic. Because that was really bad from beginning to end.
Room was absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I saw The Disaster Artist, which I really enjoyed. But watching Room is like pure torture, except there's so many parts in that movie that are hilarious that you're like, how is this guy acting this poorly?
Like his line readings are like, you can't make this up.
Yeah. In the random, you ought to watch that one too.
If you like the first 30 something minutes of this before you knew the twist.
I didn't
you
like it. But...
Well, you were, I guess, intrigued enough to keep going. I think you would be intrigued enough to watch Room.
The dialogue makes absolutely no sense in Room whatsoever. It's unbelievable, really. Don't want to spoil it for you, though.
There's no twist. There's a spoiler for you. There's no twist.
Oh, great. That's the best kind. A reverse M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you very much to the people who made this movie. I really, truly love this movie. I had a big smile on my face when I was rewatching it. Like, I think if you give it a year or 6 months, you can rewatch it. And it is really, really fun and joyful. The first 37 minutes are a little painful, but it is well worth it. Thank you as always to the listeners. Please don't subscribe. Please don't write any reviews. Don't encourage us at all. Next week, we'll be back with Dead Heat. And if we have time, Expeditionary Force. Is that the plan? Are you going to make it through that?
I'm not sure. I'm having some issues getting through that. We'll have to discuss off camera.
So definitely Dead Heat and possibly the much delayed Expeditionary Force. Or not. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, of course, Matt, to our special guest. Really appreciate it.
Special guest.
Is there anything we can see you? Any performances coming up that we might be able to check you out in?
So I am not in anything then. So no, you can't see me.
Okay.
I'll be in September.
You heard it here first, folks.
In September of 2023, I will be in part 2 of Angels in America. I don't know if you know that play. It's about the AIDS crisis in the 1980s.
Okay, so different than Angels in the Outfield.
Yes, quite different.
Are you anywhere on YouTube, by the way? That anyone can catch on any short films or anything?
Oh, good. Let's see. I am in a short called The Brother. Just look up The Brother. I'm in a music video recently, but I can't remember the name of the video. I can't remember the name of the song.
Excellent.
Say hello to someday. That's what it's called. Say hello to someday.
Say hello
Yeah,
to
just say it.
Sunday.